get a script that has so many juicy parts for actors and stuff, like was it hard to choose? I mean, especially for, like, was it difficult for you to like audition, or did you know particularly that this was the character that you wanted to go for, or did you try it different?
I think we were assigned characters when we first went in for it.
Didn't you?
Well, the early script had actually Mo, the character Mo, Daniel Kaluuya plays amazingly, was actually offered to. I auditioned for that part as well. It was called Jack originally in the play, but then actually it's funny because I did some of the scenes which obviously remain in the film, and watching Daniel do it, it's quite easy to see why I didn't get the part. It's just, I mean, he absolutely blows them away amazingly, and but Jim was always the one I wanted. Like the moment I read it, I knew it was the part for me, and I felt very very close to it, and I really wanted to do that part. So I think we all immediately knew which character we wanted to play, and we're always assigned one anyway. So
It's quite, rare for young actors to be given roles that are quite full. They come ready. And so to be able to do a film like that, what was kind of your experience on like playing it, and also, I don't know, like what did you leave Chatroom with?
I think the great thing about Chatroom is it really it promotes teenagers in a great way, in the sense that they're really more than one-dimensional characters. They're multifaceted in many ways, and we were actually given the opportunity with the roles to essentially play two characters, because there's the online and the offline world. So I think it was a challenge in that sense, but we all enjoyed it because they're really meaty parts on them.
Yeah, I mean, I think also, like you say, it's rare to get parts that are good at our age, but also it's very rare to have a film with 5 parts that good, and it was great to work with people who we're all the same age, we're all in similar places. So that was a really, really nice experience. I think we all got on really well, and so we've kind of taken really lovely friendships from.
What was the rehearsal process like? I mean, did you guys rehearse a lot, or did you need some time kind of together to hang out outside of
Yeah, there were a couple weeks rehearsals prior to that.
Yeah.
Matthew and I knew each other before, so.
And me and Daniel knew each other before as
Yeah.
well. Yeah, I mean, the rehearsal was quite interesting though, because it was, in a way, it was less about the performance and more about working out sort of technical things. And a lot of the rehearsals we did, Hideo would film them, and then sort of we'd come back the next day and he'd have cut it together, and he'd show us how, like, there are techniques when like someone disappears, and he'd have worked out how to make that work.
yeah, it was a technical rehearsal in many ways, but that's not to say it didn't benefit us, because seeing his vision for it, he'd come in with chopped up footage of what we did the day before, edited, and seeing his vision was very useful, because we really didn't know what kind of film we were making. It was a stage play before, so the very bare set. We didn't know what it was going to look like, how it was going to feel, and seeing his designs and those original cuts was really useful from an acting point of view as well.
To work with a director whose background is not English speaking, and so what was his, I don't know, his approach to the filmmaking experience like for you guys, and was there?
Well, I think despite the language barrier, I mean, he was so articulate, and it was important for us all at the beginning. We really wanted to know what we were going to be doing with this film, because I think the clarity was extremely important. It could otherwise be quite confusing, the storyline. But Hideo really believed in all of us, I think, and he was very patient and gentle, I think we all found.
Yeah.
And full of energy. I mean, there's no way you could possibly begin to, I think, take on something like Chatroom unless, like Hideo, you were just kind of, wow! Yeah. Or,
I think also that can be something quite exciting about working with someone who isn't, who isn't from the same background as you, because you learn different things and they see the world in a slightly different way. And even the language barriers can sometimes be interesting, because you can't communicate in the most immediate way, and it means you have to find other ways, and you develop a different kind of connection that's not necessarily just about the words.
And we were dealing with an international subject, the internet, so we had a French director of photography, Japanese director, British cast. It's kind of representative of the world we were trying to show, in that you have all these different people sort of come together on one.
Like last year, there was all the stories about these young kids in the UK who kind of, they're having suicide pacts and doing all that stuff by the online and stuff. So do you feel like this is a really timely kind of topic? And also, do you feel this kind of disconnect between people in real life versus what they kind of express in private?
Well, I think the way we, went about it was, I mean, Matthew actually did some research, didn't you, into the idea of the chat room?
We all kind of, it's one of the easiest jobs to research ever, because you just click on your computer and you can do whatever you want to do, and to become Jim online isn't a particularly transformative process. I can just start typing Jim's lines and start calling myself Jim. I don't have to go down the gym and train or anything. It's quite easy to become method with it because you just go online. And I found out that actually, the script, if anything, is a tame version of what's really out there. On sort of, I went on a British, UK charities depression website, which had a chat room attached to it, and people on there had much more urgency and extreme problems.
And also, I think the social networks are a way of really, obviously presenting yourself in a different persona and putting up a facade, but also these suicides that actually happened on these social networks like Facebook or Twitter and MySpace, these things, it's a way of someone putting themselves up on a pedestal and a way to be remembered, which is quite strange really, and I think we were all heavily aware of what was happening at the time in Japan, and also stories in Wales that had just kind of, I think that had happened just a couple of weeks before we started filming.
But as we don't want to, we're not saying the internet is all like this, or the internet's bad, or the internet's full of this. There's just a tiny little section of the internet we're showing. That's where we chose to set our story. You could make a comedy film set on the internet. You could make any kind of film set on the internet. The internet's just the place where the story takes place. So we're not judging the internet as like this, because we're very aware of that in the press and in certain newspapers, that internet and teenagers are all bad and all depressed and all suicidal, which isn't the case at all. It's just.
But it's definitely extremely accessible, that's the thing, in terms of...
it's just very easy to get a hang of, and if you're a little bit vulnerable or you're missing that little space which the real world isn't filling for you, it's very easy just to go online and find it.